Pest and Lawn JJ here for another episode of What's Wrong with My Lawn. This customer called us because they've been on service for a little while and they're just not getting the color that they want. So let's go check it out and see what we got today. All right guys, so we're just gonna go through the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of my lawn diagnosis. Number one, I'm looking for pattern. This pattern is pretty even. It looks like we do have a lot of green. Once we start getting close into the grass, you can see we've got a lot of dead, just kind of sporadically covering throughout the lawn. And then coming up into the backyard, let's see. You can kind of see that overall splotchiness kind of happening. So it looks like we've got something that's occurring through the majority of the lawn. Number two, I want to look at color. The splotchiness tells me that some of the areas the iron is chelating and the fertilizer is doing exactly what it's supposed to. In other areas, it's just getting plugged up. Now, this can be frustrating because this can be a couple different things. This can end up being fertilizer. It could be a thatch problem. It could be forced growth, too much fertilizer, but it could also be product failure. So at this point, I want to go back and start looking at a couple different things, but we're going to end up doing a pull test for bugs, a water test, and then we're also going to do a thatch test too. Well, let's just start out with the pull test and see where we get. So I'm going to start tugging in random different places just to see if we've got a bug problem. Now the pull test is interesting because it doesn't necessarily mean that's a primary issue. We're looking at secondary problems at this point, and I want to make sure that we're erring on the side of caution, because if he does have bugs, we need to get that real quick. And sometimes you can get these splotchy colors and have grubs or sod webworms or cranberry girdlers kind of traveling through the lawn, causing problems. And as you can see, so far so good. So I'm going to add one more step in this just because we really need to get down to the root cause, and I want to see exactly what's happening. So what we're going to do is just look at the individual blades of grass, several different sections. Even though we have an even distribution, we want to figure out exactly what's going on in each section. So I want to break this up into 6 or 7 sections, about per 1,000 square feet. Every section could be slightly different, so we don't want to jump to conclusions right away. Now normally I'd be kind of frustrated with the way that these guys are edging, but they have a perennial ryegrass, some Kentucky blue, and some tall fescue that's rhizomatous. And because of the blend that they have, it's actually pretty healthy and it's not burning out, so that's not too bad. I kind of want to look at these individual blades of grass, and you can see we've got a little bit of melting out that's occurring. In this section, you can see some of the leaf spot as well. This is a common indication of over watering. Again, we don't want to come to conclusions, so I'm still going to take a water core test, but let's walk over just a little bit. You can see we've got some dead areas. Now these areas are pretty simple. Typical dog urine spot. Orange on the inside, green on the outside. It's not breathing. Best thing to do is to lift this up, but the color lets me know that we're dealing with some sort of excess salt, and that's typically comes from dog urine. And these are looks like favorite area of the dog. Now I'm going to go right outside this spot, kind of look at the blades of grass again, and it looks like we're dealing with more of the same, even in this perennial ryegrass that we have. Let's see if you can get a good look here. Even the perennial ryegrass is melting out. Again, that's usually indicative that we're either dealing with too much water or daily watering. go ahead and jump way over here into the greener section. And it looks like we go from Kentucky bluegrass into a patch of ryegrass. Again, we get in here, start looking at it, and we've got more of this melting out and leaf spot. And you can see those little specks kind of coming up and down the blades. So it looks like we definitely have a fungus. Okay, getting up to the front yard, we go back to a dominant bluegrass. Let's just check some of these sections out. And again, we got more of this leaf spot and melting out. And these two funguses pretty much go hand in hand. And so it's not shocking to see. Coming up over here along the edges, again, it's getting worse and worse and worse, which I'm guessing, now this is interesting because here in Utah we don't get a lot of red thread and rust fungus, but this year it's been so humid, so this doesn't really shock me to see in this patch of perennial rye that he has going on here. So at this point, I think it's safe to say we definitely have a fungus, and it's kind of funny because we've been in the mid to upper 90s, low hundreds over the last couple of weeks. The majority of the calls that I go out to are lack of water. This is a pretty classic case of overwatering. Just come to a conclusion that they've got problems with overwatering and leave it at that. But you got to make sure that you go through all the steps. So let me grab my tools real quick and let's take a better look. All right, so I got my tools out, so let's start by using the soil probe first. Kind of checking our saturation. As you can see, this thing goes way down. If we go down here, just take a measurement. I'm going down to almost 18 inches, anywhere between 15 and 18 inches, which that's long, and you can see it's really, really wet. Want to take a couple other plugs just to make sure that we confirm our findings before coming to a conclusion. Now it's not going down as far, but you can see I'm actually hitting rock and it is soaking wet. It's just soppy. So the soil probe kind of revealed some interesting things. We've got a lot of the sections of the backyard that are being severely overwatered. But then over here, in this area, it's being slightly underwatered, which it's kind of funny. Sometimes we tend to want to compensate our sprinkler time to make up for some sprinkler adjustments. Now in this case, this has turned into a big problem because they decided to do it that way. Now, the interesting thing to point out this problem is I'm starting to see mushrooms in the lawn. Now, mushrooms are a pretty good indication of overwatering. The fix for it is actually pretty simple. You back off the water in this instance. Now, pulling the thatch revealed a couple of things. Number one, they actually have a really good thatch layer. Things aren't out of control, and they definitely don't need to power rake at this point. You'll notice in the picture, the dry spots, the thatch is not decomposing, it's gray. But then we get to the wetter spots, it's starting to decompose, it's turning that real dingy kind of coppery orange color, which is kind of what we want to see, but I'm not seeing a huge excess. Now, some dead grass sitting on top of the soil it's actually pretty beneficial. It'll break down, it'll provide a little bit of excess nutrients and micronutrients and beneficial bacteria to the lawn, so we don't necessarily want to scrape all that out. One thing that I found really interesting was this pine tree. This poor little guy here actually is an early onset of needle cast, and it's going to need a fungal treatment. Now, this is also an indication of overwatering. All right, guys, so I think it's safe to say primary issue, watering. Secondary issues, fungus. We got lucky this time. Mother Nature hasn't sent her bugs in just yet, and the lawn hasn't gotten overly stressed. A little focus time on the fix here. Number one, we need to severely back off the watering. We want to back off the watering and stress it out. Now, we don't want the lawn going brown. We just want those kind of aqua colors on the outside edges starting to pull in where you know it's starting to get stressed out with water. Number two, sprinklers need to be fixed. The coverage in the backyard, especially in this back corner, that needs to be repaired. Once we get that done, he's going to overwater about every other day, about 2 inches to put the water back in, while we put down an ammonium nitrate solution. We want to force some growth in here. Now, after that, I'm going to ask him to go about 4 weeks, hopefully anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks, no mowing. This type of fungus, there's no reason to put down a fungicide. It's not really going to cure it. And so what we want to do is we want to grow that grass out to about 5-6 inches, and then we want to mow the top off, make it really, really simple. If you guys have any questions or concerns, hit me up in the comments. If you like what I'm doing, please share. Sharing is caring. Till the next time, guys, Pest the Lawn Ginger. What's wrong with my lawn? See ya.